Hello my good friends, how are you? It's been a long time. In this series we'll be looking into the mad, more specifically people, and what happens when you surrender yourself to something else that's wild, in comparison to our astoundingly plain beliefs of our increasingly uncomfortable society, the wonderfully brilliant world of the cult. In this video we're going to be looking at the 12 tribes. Yeah, the cult is something that has fascinated me for many years. A cult that has taken on an increasingly hungry business plan over the past 20 years. It's hard to pinpoint where exactly to start with this, but I'll shoot for the stars and land at the beginning. 12 Tribes is a long-running cult. It was founded 2 years after Manson's design. Specializing in the indoctrination and conscious enveloping of people with the essence of deep communal connection is of course the speciality of this group, as of all cults, but unlike all the rest, they have put themselves to work across the world feeding the population through a thriving restaurant chain. This cult has a strict orientation around its code of conduct, and this has gained it some negative attention in the past, and intervention from the Vermont State Troopers. We'll get into that later. I think it's about time we take a deep dive into the notorious 12 tribes. Let's begin with the ideology, of these lunatics. Every cult requires a big dose of ideology, and this cult geniusly embeds religion into its fabric. This organization believes strongly in the Bible, however has taken a different route into the interpretation of the good book. They believe in the spreading out and establishing of 12 groups across the world. They believe when they establish these tribes, they will produce a pure 12,000 people who will bring about the end time. Oh, and Jesus is going to turn up also. Boom. It is believed that due to the restoration of Israel, I believe they're referring to the fact that Israel was re-established as a country in 1948. And due to the general state of the human world, the end times are here. This is a point you can't argue with. If you do believe in a plastic future and praise silicon mines, you're already dead. So really, this is playing on anyone with a human spirit. Anyway, they believe we're all going to die pretty soon, and when we do, the following crazy fun takes place. So after all dead and gone, we're given a conscience. The people who believe in Yeshua, Jesus, will be brought back to rule the earth for 1,000 years, and will witness the actual end of times and the destruction of our little green home. This is called the final judgment. At the final judgment, all non-believers will be judged on their deeds and separated out into two groups, the righteous and the unjust. All the unjust go to the lake of fire, in which their souls are destroyed. All the righteous head on to heaven, and the 12 tribes go along for the long ride up. So now we've taken a look at the motion of this machine, let's take a look at the engine. Albert Eugene Spriggs was born in Tennessee in 1937. He lived a tumultuous early life. He describes this period as a time of spiritual uneasiness. In 1970, aged 33, Spriggs had a life-changing spiritual experience. This experience, whatever that may have been, inspired Spriggs to change his life. He married again after several failed attempts. This time it stuck. In 1937, he founded Divine Christian Community Church Bible Study Group. This group grew in number, and the Spriggs began inviting several of the more members of society into their home. Eventually, they decided to purchase 3 Victorian homes to help house the growing following. The Light Brigade. The group relabeled, calling themselves the Light Brigade. They converted the Spriggs family home into a coffee shop called the Lighthouse. How original. And in 1973 opened a restaurant, the Yellow Deli. It's crucial to understand that Eugene had been using his study group to push his personal perspective. He had recruited a following from providing warmth to the downtrodden and damned. It is hard to truly know his incentive. Was he preying on the threadbare, or did he believe he was truly saving the lost? They began holding a critical mass sessions in large public spaces. These sessions would push the hypnotic, distorted perspective that Spriggs had extracted from the Bible, and Spriggs would even go as far as baptizing his obedient followers in a pond. In 1980, the group relocated to Island Pond, Vermont, where they were called the Church in Island Pond. Again, how original. And as they spread through the New England area, they adopted a new name, the Northeast Kingdom Community Church. It's probably the only original part of that. So what do the followers of the 12 tribes actually believe? Well, by origin, their belief is Christian derived, but altered in subtle ways as to present the Bible in a unique perspective. They believe it is their role to create the ultimate human. From what I have read, they do this by beating discipline into children from the seasoned age of 6 months. From what I have read, they do this regularly, and they use a little stick. They strive for redemption, and believe we are beginning to embark on an age of greater peace, in which all humanity respects and loves each other. They believe a new nation is on the rise, and with it, a new world will emerge stronger and cleaner than the previous. However, the old world must first get out of the way. Something I've discovered about cults is that it's always about the end of the world. It's always something to do with the end of the world, and you're the chosen one, and the world is ending, and you know, believe in what I believe and give us all your money. Whoever gives all shall receive 100 times. The 12 tribes believe in communities of people and families working as one on green pastures. They say before Messiah can return to the earth, there must be a people separate from the nations of the world, obeying his commands. When they join the tribes, they rid themselves of all possessions and revert to older garments and a simpler lifestyle. 12 tribes itself is in a way beyond the power of the government. As long as they don't interfere in the world they have banned themselves from. Because they're classed as a religion, they're not controlled as much as other groups. They're also a class as a charity and a religion. Being a kid in the 12 tribes is shit. The children are limited in what they can do and cannot do. Many people who have left the cult have exposed the tribe for forms of child abuse, from beating crying 6-month-old children to not being allowed to play pretend, as that is, quote, entering Satan's unseen realm. The cult self-educates, which inevitably means the children are shaped to reciprocate the cult's ideology and hierarchical structure. Not every cult can sprout up in the 1970s and go on to grow and spread to cover every corner of the planet. It is rather unique. To do this, the 12 tribes created and welded themselves to a capitalist vehicle. They established the Yellow Deli restaurant in the 1970s, and since then have only expanded, piggybacking their cult on the financial expansion of the business. The restaurants are worked by cult members and are worked, from what I could discover, voluntarily. The workers are told that they all own the deli communally, and therefore they volunteer and are provided with the things they need to function in return, from toothbrush to clothing to the rest of it. Strangely enough, the Yellow Deli is categorized as a charity. In 1984, the state of Vermont caught whisper of the 12 tribes' treatment of kids within the cult being less than suitable. The state dropped a case, and alongside social workers marched in, retrieving over 100 children from the camp. The kids were held as the state attempted to retrieve a warrant. However, the warrant to search the children for signs of abuse was halted and thrown out due to a lack of evidence. The children were returned, and the 12 tribes hold this to be a great win and something that is annually celebrated. More recently, in Australia in 2020, an ex-12 tribes elder was murdered in a house fire after they publicly spoke out on television against the cult about the amount of stillbirths in the community due to the cult's rules on birthing and the lack of medical support. This was what a 17-year-old was charged with the murder. This is in relation to the fact that the cult does not use any form of modern-day pharmaceuticals when birthing children, and therefore several children die and several mothers die. because it is one of the beliefs of the cult that no modern medicine should be used. This doesn't always occur. Sometimes cult leaders decide, because at the end of the day it's up to the elders. Sometimes they decide, okay, this is going wrong, this woman's about to die, let's get the outside world to help. Not always, and a lot of the time, from what this cult leader was saying, that doesn't always happen, and a lot of the time it doesn't happen.
But if someone's seriously ill,
then we would pray for them.
So how's it going now for the 12 tribes? Well, their leader passed away, Eugene, and so far from what I have seen, they have not been overly shook by this. The cult is probably supported by the amalgamation of being spread so vastly across the world and so thoroughly institutionalizing its organically grown following. These factors, alongside a financial engine, the Yellow Deli, keep people holding on to the lifestyles they have cultivated within the cult they're hooked into. Essentially, when you have a group of people that raise children into a cult, into a system, just like you're not going to run away, you're not going to take a step outside the system you were born into. They don't want to take a step outside the system they were born into. Like that, totally, because basically if they were to return to the world, they'd be entering something they have no concept about. And for a lot of people that do leave the cult and do enter the world, they have no idea how to deal with money or taxes and stuff like that. So there you go. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you next time.